Good to see you. Feel like the doctor's in?
Yeah.
Come to see the doctor?
That's right.
How's everybody doing today?
We're good.
Doing great. Good to see everybody. It's a good-looking group.
Of course they are.
Kim, you didn't tell me they were all this good-looking.
We got a good crew.
So, welcome to the Greatness Factory. And when I built this place, here's what I said. At some point in everybody's life, a person makes a decision that they have a lot of potential. Now, I want you to think about when you made that decision. Or maybe you've not made that decision yet, right? When you do make a decision to become more than what you currently are, when you do make a decision to step into your potential, where do you go? What do you do? You know, for a decade, I was a high school women's basketball coach. That's why you see this big gaudy ring on my right finger. It took me 12 years and 80-hour work weeks to win that thing, right? And mamas and daddies would drop their daughters off to me, and they all said the same thing. My daughter's got a lot of potential. Every now and then they said issues. And they were right about that, right? But Dad say my daughter's got a lot of potential. She just needs something. What do you think they said she needed? Coaching. Training. Practice. Discipline. Structure. Accountability. Right? And I'd say all your daughter needs is a good coach. Okay? And then, so about 3 or 4 years into being a head coach, we started winning a lot of games. I started operating at a very high level, and people come to me and say, how you doing it? Like the biology teacher would come up and say, hey, what are you doing with these kids? Man, what you're doing is working, right? And so many people began to ask me how I was doing, and I began writing books on it. And I said, here's how we're doing it. And when I wrote that book, companies began to call me that were now had adults like you, and it was so funny what they were saying. They were saying, Coach, we got a lot of good people, and they got a lot of, issues. Y'all got to pay attention. No, they say, well, we got a lot of good people, and they got a lot of potential. They just need something. What did they say? Because this was the ironic part. They just need structure, guidance, accountability, focus, right? The exact same things those mamas and daddies said that their daughters needed. So I want you to think about, how many of you have ever had a good coach at some point in your life? Okay, now what did that good coach do for you? Because a lot of what I'm going to do for you today is a lot of what a good coach should do for you. What do you think a good coach actually does?
Tell you the truth.
Okay, good. So you'll hear me say a lot, a good coach will have conversations with you that you don't want to have. Remember those conversations? It wasn't always what you wanted to hear, but what you needed to hear, right? It's shocking to me today that some of my players are 34 and 35 years old and come back to me even to this day and go, gosh, man, I didn't want to hear that, but you told me exactly what I needed to hear, right? And I wish I would have listened, or on and on and on, okay? So a good coach will have conversations with you may or may not want to have. They'll also encourage you to do some things you may or may not want to do. Fair enough? But a good coach should help you become something you didn't think you could become. Is that what your coach did for you when you had a good coach? Did you always love the coach? No. But did the coach get you to a much higher level? So I want you to think about this. When we're children, we are typically being coached by other people. Okay? And so because of that, we're staying in a certain state. So I want you to think of 3 states that we're always in. We are dynamic. And dynamic means we are growing, ascending, on fire, interested, passionate, dynamic. Now here's the beauty. That's very attractive to the market. Like I love working with dynamic people, right? Because dynamic people come with batteries included. You ain't got to wind them up, psych them up, motivate them, right? They show up ready to do something. They're dynamic in nature, okay? But then, so early in our lives, because we have coaches, we stay in a dynamic state, right? And our coaches will not let us get to the next state that people have, which is static. Now, give me some words that are attached to that. Give me some common words for static. Complacent. You know the definition of complacency? It's a gradual settling to a place of mediocrity. Sounds sexy, doesn't it? Send your kids off to school in the morning, you don't say, hey, go gradually settle to a place of mediocrity today, right? Okay? So static, one word is complacent. What else? Stagnant. Stuck. Bored. In a rut. Right? This is where a lot of people live. This is where a lot of companies are. This is where a lot of teams are. Now, if you've been following the hockey, I'm not a big hockey person, but you cannot deny how dynamic Nashville has been the last couple of weeks with the Predators, right or wrong?
Right.
It's dynamic. You can't deny it. It's not static. It's not stuck. We could go to a lot of cities where their hockey teams, I remember a time everybody in the world said hockey would never work in Nashville, Tennessee. I was probably one of those people. I'm like, hockey in Nashville? Right? But it is dynamic. Now, when something's dynamic, people move toward it. When you're a dynamic leader, people are interested in following you. Okay? We routinely have 5 to 10 people a week that want to come work with us, want to come work with me. And there are all kinds of people. We've had people that were nurses. I had the nurse that delivered my daughter said, I want to come work with you. Okay, we have insurance people. We have all kinds of people. And you know what they're attracted to? Because we're trying to build something dynamic. You follow me? So it helps us with recruiting. We can recruit some of the best people in the world to come work with us because we got a dynamic shop. Does that make sense? What people don't want to go to is something that's static, stuck, bored, in a rut. Now, why do we get in that state? Because part of my job today is to get you thinking, how do we build dynamic teams? Not every team I had was dynamic. I had some teams that were static. Some of the teams I had, when I look back over my career, is I had some teams that won 35 games that should have won 25. I had some teams that won 25 that should have won 35. You follow me? There was something, we'll get into what that is, but why did some teams overperform and some teams underperform, right? Same thing I see in a bit. This morning I was with Churchill Mortgage. Churchill Mortgage is a $2 billion mortgage company in Brentwood. I'm coaching all 130 of their people, every single person in their company, the president, okay, the COO, the leadership team, the sales team, the operations team, everybody. Everybody's getting coached. And you know what I see that does? Keeps everybody static. Everybody's dynamic. Okay? Everybody's dynamic. Everybody's growing. Everybody's getting better. We don't allow any complacency. Okay? So I spent 4 hours this morning coaching 130 people. And so when you think about this, my job is to keep them in a dynamic state. You know why? There's all kinds of people competing for the mortgage space. So there's large amounts of competition competing for the same space. They believe a good coach can give them an advantage. You follow me? Do you believe a good manager can give a team an advantage? Yes or no?
Yes.
The better the manager's the coach, by the way. The better the manager, the better the team. So why do we get in this state again? Why do we end up here? Because at some point in life, we've all been static.
In that path, I think you grow accustomed to things and you don't move any forward out of sense of fear.
You don't move forward out of sense of fear?
You don't want to take risk. You become very satisfied.
That's right.
Too comfortable.
Yeah. And comfort is a real bad enemy here, isn't it? Comfort is a real bad enemy. It's a direct companion and cousin to complacency.
There, you're ready to roll the dice.
Yeah. You know what I noticed? I wrote a book on this called Swag. It's around here somewhere. It's about confidence. Swag is slang for confidence. And here's what I noticed about confident people. They will take risk and pursue opportunity. Insecure people will always contract and retreat. Insecure people will move to a place of comfort. Confident people will always push towards something. So here's the state. We're dynamic, but then we get static. Okay? And static is stuck. And then the third state is called entropic. Okay? Entropic is disintegration. Disintegration. Okay? Now, so our goal as managers and coaches is to stay in this state and never let us get here. We also get here because there's actually a level of complacency at the top. You can actually be very, very, very good at what it is you do and still get bored. I've coached people making $5 million a year that are bored out of their minds. You see what I'm saying? So money didn't do it for them. They were the best at what they do. They were bored. They were bored. So my granddad said if you eat banana pudding every day for 10 years, you'll eventually get tired of eating it. Right? Why did I retire at 31 years old from coaching at the peak of my career? Because I was bored. What else is there for me to do? Come back and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. You follow me? Spend 10 years doing it the first time. So I reach a static state. So what I do, I don't let my people get static, number one, and if I sense them getting static, I don't allow people who work with me to get static, number one. I challenge them, okay? And I try to keep a dynamic environment here, okay? Now, here's the great myth, is we see this happening all the time, dynamic, static, entropic, and this is where all of this is associated, by the way, with one word, energy. This is the common denominator between these three things. Lots of energy, static energy, no energy, right? Now, I use the example of my grandfather because my grandfather worked his whole life with his hands. Built houses, built cabinets. He was very dynamic. He loved what he did for a living. And we're kind of taught in our country that we're going to work, and then one day we're going to do what? Retire. We're going to retire. So he retired from what he loved doing. And my mother told me one day, she said, it's almost as if the day after your granddad retired, everything in his life went downhill. His health went downhill. His mind went downhill. He actually skipped this state. He went from dynamic to entropic. You with me? Joe Paterno, 6 months after they took away coaching at Penn State, was dead. You follow me? Because he lost his reason to get up and be dynamic. You follow me? He lost his reason to get up in the morning and fight for something. So I don't mind retirement. Retire from what you're no longer doing, but don't retire to nothing. Because you quickly jump states, right? I even tell the story of David in the Bible. King David was always blessed when he was going to battle every year. And then one year he decided to stay home from battle. And he stayed home and watched the Bathsheba show on the internet. And got himself in a lot of trouble. And then he wasn't blessed anymore because he disengaged from battle. Does that make sense? So I always want to stay in this state. And me, just like you, I get tired. So I want you to write these three states, not only these three states down, but I want you to write this down. There's 3 modes of operation. One is rejuvenated. And rejuvenated is dynamic, right? The word rejuvenate means to make young again. So I always had a rule when I was coaching, if I'm tired, my team is 3 times as tired as I am. If you're tired as the leader, they're real tired. Because most likely you got a bigger engine than they do. That's why you're sitting in the room today. You follow me? Rejuvenated is I'm fresh. I'm alive. I'm on fire, man. I'm a guy you want to get up and work for every day. Okay? 2, second mode is mechanical. Mechanical is static. Let me give you some definitions. Going through the motions. Just trying to make it through the day. Survival, right? That's mechanical mode. How many people do you see operate in that mode? Agitated, tired, frustrated. They ain't got any good mojo. You follow me? They're just Wednesdays, hump day, Fridays, thank God it's Friday. We're just trying to make it through the day. Now, let me ask you this question. Can you be in that state and be really, really great at what it is you do? No. I mean, you might be able to muscle through it because you're good and you're professional and you show up, right? But can you really, really be great in mechanical mode? No. Yeah. Now, but now I will say this, the more professional you become, the less you listen to your feelings. Okay? 10 o'clock last night, I was in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay? I got in late. I was at the gym at 5:15 with my trainer. I didn't want to go. Didn't feel like going. I told him, I said, man, just get me through. Get me through 30 minutes. Does that make sense? Because let me tell you, as I've gotten older, here's what I've learned to teach myself. Is just because my feelings are real, that don't make them right. Professionals show up whether they feel like it or not. You with me? And if you can ever get your team to understand that, there's going to be days you don't feel like it. We don't care. Fight through it, right? I guarantee you all those hockey players don't feel good every night they're playing. Big-time athletes don't feel good every night they play. Big-time performers don't feel good every night they perform, right? But they fight through it because they're feelings. But my ultimate goal is to keep me and you in a dynamic, rejuvenated state. Okay? Because if I burn my engine too much in mechanical, I become burned out, which is a third state. Everybody see that? And burnout is where I've lost all joy or passion for my work. How many people have ever been there before? I'm sure at some point in your life you're burned out of something. Right? It's not age specific. You can actually be very good. So think of it this way. There's a level of complacency up here, just like there is down here. See, we look at some people and say, well, they're lazy. Well, they're lazy. They're complacent. Well, I actually see people at the very top of their game that can be lazy too. Now, here's what I would tell you when it comes to this potential. I don't know what your potential is. I don't know what your agreement with the planet is. Only you do. My wife don't know my potential. My own mother don't know my potential. I know if I'm clicking on every cylinder or not, right? Okay? So only you know that. Now, how many of you at some point have worked for someone that was clearly in a static or entropic state? Now, how excited was it to get up and go work for them? Okay, I worked for a principal once when I was a coach, and he would catch me during the day. He'd say, "You see my car out there?" I'd say, "Yeah." He said, "You know what's sitting in the floorboard of that car?" I said, "No." He said, "A 6-pack of beer." And I was like, his whole day was just to get through it, right? This is a principal of a high school. And his whole day was to get through the day to get a hold of that 6-pack of beer. And that was like his aspiration for the day, right? He just tried to make it through the day, man. But, well, that didn't inspire me to want to go be great. You know, then I've worked for people who, when I was around them, I was operating my best. They made me want to be better. When I get around big time people, I'm like, man, he's good. Man, she's good. They make me want to be better, right? So my second book I wrote was a book called The Inspirational Leader, How to Be a Leader People Choose to Follow versus Have to Follow. Right? And here's what I figured out. I can make you follow me because if you're one of my employees, I've got authority over you. But that's a very short-term fix to a long-term problem, right or wrong. Or I can try to inspire you to want to be better by how you watch me work, right? And when you're around me, you want to be on your A game. So which one are you going to be, right? So today we're going to tackle how to build high-performance teams. But I really got to tell you, you can't give away what you don't possess. You can't build a high-performance team if you're not a high-performance leader, right? So we really got to go to work on you first to get you to a much higher level than where you're operating at. But it's only going to work if you're interested in your own potential. Do we see a lot of adults that don't become interested in their own potential? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Is it not hypocritical for us to tell our children they have potential if they're not seeing us reach ours? Every night before we go to bed, my daughter and I, my daughter's 4, she'll be 5 this year, we sit down and we map out our goals for the next day. I tell people, wouldn't it be great to be my daughter? But I've trained my 5-year-old daughter to, see, I have my notes, so this is my day today. Okay, so I map out my day every day. Shows you what time I wake up, shows you what time I'm finished tonight, shows you every appointment I've got, shows you where my high-value activity is, shows you my goals for the day. I do this every night. I have trained my 5-year-old daughter to sit down and map out her day. And I'll say, what are your goals for tomorrow? Let's start with goals. These are things you want to achieve, right? She'll say to be obedient, to listen, to be a good helper at school, to listen to mom and daddy, and to be able to watch Strawberry Shortcake when I get home. Are those goals, yes or no?
Yes.
98% of people will never take time to do this every night. Right or wrong? How can I be effective as a leader of my company if I show up and I don't have this planned? Time, there's non-refundable seconds. I'm very critical about time. You understand what I'm saying? I only got so much time in a day, and it's a big world, and there's a lot of problems to solve. Okay? So we got to be very efficient with our time. So for you, I sit down and she maps out her day, right, what her high-value activity is. I want you thinking what your high-value activity is as a leader. These are the things I'm going to accomplish today to move my ball down the field toward our goals, right? But if I'm in this state, my team's looking at me going, he's tired, burned out, exhausted. He ain't even got any mojo. You can't give away what you don't possess, right? So at the end of the day, I'll ask my daughter, did you reach your goals today? We pick her up at school. I'll say, did you reach your goals? And I love kids because they're brutally honest. I'm like, were you a good listener today? She's like, no. Do you get to watch Strawberry Shortcake? Not tonight, Daddy. See how honest they are? Right? Adults will lie. Yeah, I was good. I was on my A game. Showed up, delivered the goods, right? So we're going to talk about how to build world-class teams today. But first we're going to talk about you, okay? So let me ask some questions. What do you want to get out of today's sessions? What would you like to get? You send me what you got. What about the rest of the team? What would you like to walk away with? If I got you into a more dynamic state, would that be a win for us? Okay.
To get rid of the victim mentality.
Okay. And who? You or others?
Others.
Okay. Okay. We'll tackle that one. The biggest thing they want me to talk about with 20 to 30-year-olds is entitlement. Average 20 to 30-year-olds changing jobs 23 to 37 times over the course of their lifetime.
Wow.
I believe it's because they haven't found their voice, they hadn't found their talent, hadn't found the right place for that talent. So they jump from bus to bus to bus to bus. And sometimes they blame other people. Don't like the bus they're on, don't like the manager. But having said that, all millennials are not entitled people. There's 80 million millennials. They're not all bad. You follow me? We got a 21-year-old right now, intern that works for us, and she would run circles around a lot of people I've hired. You follow me? Shows up every day professional, on time and early, listens, takes good notes, performs at a very high level. Okay? So you can't, so what I'm careful of with a lot of people is don't generalize. All men are not pigs. All millennials are not lazy. You understand what I'm saying? All people are not evil. I listen for language, and extreme thinkers concern me. See what I'm saying? My whole team is not awful. So just listen to your language when you're talking. So we will tackle that, though. We'll tackle that victim mentality. Okay? And I think it has a lot to do with the leader. Okay? If you hold people accountable to the results they've been hired to get, right? And when you give me an excuse, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push back on it. I'm going to say, come on now. Now, and I'll remind you, now, why did I hire you? I hired you because you told me you were the best in the world at what it is you do. Right? Isn't that right? And the best in the world don't make excuses. Excuse is just a self-proclaimed opt-out clause. Right? So I didn't hire you to make excuses. I hired you to get the job done. You follow me here? So I push people. I don't, as a leader, I don't let you get by with bad excuses always follow lousy results. So when you give me an excuse, I'm like, now, hold on now. Okay? Don't bring that to me. Don't bring that part to me. You can do this. That's why I got you, right? Okay, so we'll tackle that one. What else?
I want to have fun.
Okay, you want to have fun. Good. I like having fun, don't you?
I do.
Can you win and have fun at the same time?
You bet.
Absolutely. Winning is fun, isn't it?
Right.
Winning is fun. I want you to think about this. I coach early on in my coaching career. When I got more intense, I got more negative. Then I worked with a guy one summer who was intense and positive. And I went to him, I said, man, I noticed people love playing for you. He said, well, nobody ever said that as you got more intense, you had to get negative. See, my whole life, when I turned up the pressure, I also got negative. Right? And he taught me a valuable lesson, man. You can be very intense. You know that I think it's 24 to 26 players in the NFL want to play for Pete Carroll. They said, if asked, which NFL coach would you like to play for the most? And they say Pete Carroll. Seahawks, right? And because they say he's a player's coach. But then they interviewed his players, and they asked his players, does that mean he's soft? Everyone's players said, absolutely not. Don't ever mistake him out there having fun for thinking he's a pushover. He's very intense, but he's positive. Does that make sense? And a lot of people don't know how to do that. They're ingrained to be negative. They're ingrained to be negative. So the more pressure, I don't mind you putting pressure on your team, but you don't have to beat them down, right? You don't have to beat them down. So that's a good one. We're going to have fun. I'm with you on that. Anything else? I keep coming back to this side of the room. There's something. Hey.
Aligned inspiration would be great for a team. Everybody inspired at the same time.
That's good. How many of y'all have ever been on a team that had that? Yeah. What's that like? Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
There's been a few times in my career that I've had everybody clicking on the same cylinder. Typically, there's somebody got their feelings hurt or head down or head in the sand. And it makes it not fun for the other people that are clicking on every cylinder. But when you get it all going in the right direction, man, it is a lot of fun, right? It is a lot of good mojo headed in the right direction. So aligned inspiration is very, very critical, okay? Anybody else? Speak now, forever hold your peace. We're here. I just don't want you to get to the end and say, I didn't get my money's worth. Right? All right, I'm going to show you a tool here. We're talking about you and your team, okay? This is called the whole person theory. There's nothing that impacted my coaching career and leadership career that can help you more than this one thing right here, okay? And I learned this, and many years ago, I think in '89, I didn't start implementing it until probably my 5th or 6th year as a coach, is if we're talking about this idea of potential in our team, that is this idea of kinetic energy that's stored until utilized. How many of you think you have a team right now that has a lot more in the tank than what it's showing? Right? So it has more potential. Potential, kinetic energy that's sitting there waiting to be activated. Okay? Well, when we talk about potential, we can't talk about potential without understanding how to tap into the whole person. Okay? And so I want you to draw this up. A whole person is made up of 4 parts. A body, a mind, a heart, and a spirit. Each of these parts produce 4 different dimensions, 4 different capacities, 4 different intelligences. Okay? And it's very critical because once you know this, you're going to be able to diagnose the problem or the missing structure in every person you're coaching. The body is physical quotient, but let's put skill out beside that one. The body represents skill. The mind represents knowledge. Okay? The heart represents passion, compassion, desire, drive, want to, right? And the spirit, for the purposes of this, represents confidence. Okay? Obviously, I'm a faith-based man, so in a grand scheme of things, it could represent connection to a higher power. Everybody with me? Well, when I learned this, here's what I quickly figured out. What good is it to have skill with no desire? What good is it to have desire with no knowledge? What good is it to have all 3 of these with no confidence? Everybody follow me here? So what I was doing, that was a mistake in my leadership career, is I was only coaching one part of their nature. Okay? And when I learned this, I was like, oh my gosh. How good is a worker at work when they come to work but they got a broken heart? I got several people I'm coaching right now. I got one guy that I'm coaching that went on his honeymoon with his new wife. Turks and Caicos, got married at a destination wedding, had a great honeymoon, came home, and as soon as they walked in their new house, she left him. Okay? He's a salesperson. How motivated do you think he's going to be to sell this week? So he calls me, frantic. Coach, I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you. What am I going to do? I don't know what to do. I just got home, and my wife has left me, and we're 4 days into this. He's mad. You know what I'm saying? He feels like she's give up on him. And what I think happened is she was older in life, 37, never married, and she just had a little freak out. Because now she ain't got all that space she used to have. Does that make sense? And she's a physician. And physicians are trained very hard to be, you know what I'm saying? They're a little bit hard to coach sometimes. So he feels heartbroken, mad, angry. Oh yeah, and his company's expecting him to show up and work this week. You follow me here? So here's what I begin to understand. A person with a broken heart, no matter how much skill and knowledge they got, is not going to perform at very high levels. What about a broken spirit? Now here's what I noticed. Work can actually crush my spirit. Let's say I work for you and I come up and I give you everything I've got and I push as hard as I can for you and I give it all and you just always just crush my spirit. You never acknowledge anything. Here's what happens is I shut down here and I shut down here. Now you've got me, but you've got me just here. Maybe not even here. Everybody with me?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think some people, though, in that spirit, develop the mentality or the bridge on themselves to give the middle finger, to those who try?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, that's a great question. When this gets broken, personally or professionally, there's only 2 things people do. They either fight back, right? It reminds me of this. I remember those license plates, I don't get mad, I get even. When you really break a person's heart, they come at you hard. That makes sense? Okay, it's not a political statement, but Trump, when he became president, was involved in 3,500 lawsuits. Okay, so you have to ask the question, what would a person do to be involved in? What would a person do to another person? You see what I'm saying? Like, I've been involved in some frivolous lawsuits. But if I had 3,500 people that woke up that wanted to come at me, does that make sense? What did I do to attract that to me? Does that make sense? Now, that's not a political statement, okay? I'm not saying for or against. I'm just saying, when I heard that, I was like, man, that's a lot. You pissed a lot of people off, right? I mean, I can wake up and piss off a few every day, but I don't know if I can piss that many off. But my point is, to your point, I actually see this a lot in the workplace, is that I gave you this, and so you didn't, you see what I'm saying? And I feel so brokenhearted. So the psychologist would tell us I either fight or I flee. And that's true. So another way is I show up because I need a job and I need the money. But I don't give you my best effort. Okay? So I'm here physically, but I'm not here with my heart. And I'm not here with my spirit. So as a manager and a coach, you can actually break these in people. And today we're living in a world where people are more fragile and sensitive than they've ever been. I could not go back today and coach the way I did 10 years ago. I couldn't be as tough as I was. Does that make sense? So what I'm noticing that man, people today, employees need a lot of recognition, a lot of affirmation. I'm not wired that way. I don't need you to tell me how good I am. Does that make sense? Because that don't drive me. I'm driven by how many people can I impact on planet Earth. Your opinion matters to me, but your opinion of me don't always matter as much as it did when I was 25. You follow me? Some will, some won't. So what? It's my thoughts, right? But I do know this, from being a leader and a coach of coaching a lot of companies, man, I'm seeing more and more of this today more than ever. So how do I tap into these parts of a person? Everybody with me? Well, if I'm coaching you and I'm your manager, my job is to first diagnose where your missing structure is. So I guarantee when I showed you this, some of you go, oh, I got somebody that's missing in skill. He don't know what he's doing. He don't know how to do this right. So I spend time teaching them how to do it. Some people are missing in knowledge. Some people are missing in desire. Their work ethic is just not there. Some people are missing in confidence. So if I'm really going to get you to another level, I'm going to spend a lot of time coaching you in these 4 areas. Knowledge, skill, desire, confidence. Knowledge, skill, desire, confidence. Everybody follow me here? Because a lot of people just work on this. And I coach a lot of salespeople, and most salespeople come in and coach this right here. So they say make more sales calls, call more people, hit the phones harder, knock on more doors. What they're not doing is touching this. So I work on the whole person. I work on the confidence. Okay, I work on the passion. I work on it all. So I'm trying to grow a whole person here. Okay, what are your questions about this? Now, does this change how you lead people? Yes or no? It should, because now I've got a tool to diagnose and predict where you need help. You can't see your missing structures. So here's the philosophy. You can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. You can't stir the pot when you're inside the bowl. So I could walk into your team if I work with you on a consistent basis, and I could say, you got 3 missing structures. You can't see them. That's why I have people coaching me, because I can't see my own, right? And so I could say, hey, there's 3 things we do. If we just worked on these 3 things, man, we could produce at a much higher level. But when I understood this, guys, man, everything went to a whole nother level. So what did I begin doing? I began spending more time slowing down to speed up. So I took a walk every day with one player a day. So after practice, I'd say, hey, let's take a walk. And what I do is I touch these 2 parts here. Tell me about your family. Tell me about what's going on. Tell me about how I can be a better coach to you. And you would be shocked at how that walk with those players changed our relationship. Everybody with me? One of the only professors I remember in college. I went to college for 9 years, by the way. I wasn't that dumb. I did get 3 degrees. I know what you're thinking. This old boy coaching us is slow. The only professor I really remember was a professor that I was disengaged in her class. And one day she said, Mr. Burt, after class, can I walk you to your next class? And I'm like, you want to walk me? Because I sat in the back, didn't pay attention. And we walked and talked. She said, tell me about your family. Tell me about why you seem shy in the class. Tell me what I can do to be a better instructor. You see what I'm saying? I went from the back of the class to the front. Like the next day, I was sitting up front. I was so engaged because that woman just took 15 minutes and walked with me. And I think about how fast we get going. See, your people are the geese laying the golden eggs. Would you agree with that? You know the story of Aesop. You can't kill the goose. So my question is, if we got to get more, we're trying to get more production out of these people, how do we get them to absolutely fight for us? And very seldom did I hear a person say, I'd run through the wall for my manager. But I hear a lot of people say, I'd run through the wall for my coach. Everybody see that? So what can you do? Here's a practical lesson. Number 1, I spend time every week on skill. with my people. So I'll say, hey, let's walk through how to do that. Let me show you how to do this, because I want you to know how to do it. Then I spend time constantly coaching my people on the fly, one-to-one, in groups. So think of coaching like this, one-to-many. So you're coaching your team like this. And if you're not having a weekly meeting with your team in some capacity, you need to. And that meeting does not need to be all technical. So technical is just numbers, production, safety, right? There needs to be a humanistic part of that meeting. So I typically spend 7 minutes on life and 7 minutes on competency. So I'll tell a story. What I'm trying to do is touch their... Then I'll talk about, now let's talk about numbers. Let's talk about what we can do to improve. And we could all get better here. Okay, I won't run through the wall for you unless you touch me here. So a lot of times I spend time every week coaching people on skill, then coaching them on knowledge. Then we look for 5 success stories a week. These have to be unsolicited success stories from our clients who say an involvement with your company drastically changed us. You with me here? And as soon as I get those in, I can get them through email, text message, LinkedIn, Facebook. I share them with our team. Now, why would I do that? You remember? Here's what I want you to remember. Remember how hard we're working and why we're doing this? Look at these messages I'm getting. I got 2 today.
Builds our confidence.
That's right. I want you to know we're not just doing this for the money. We're doing it for impact. Look at what people are saying through a relationship with us. It touches their heart and spirit. And I say if we don't have 5 a week, we didn't have a good week. We need 5 unsolicited success stories of how we change somebody's game a week, right? And it is very meaningful. So here, if a person's not producing, I'll have a conversation with them. And I'll say something like this, man, you got a lot of potential, Kim. I see that potential in you, but you're not even close to clicking on every cylinder you got. What can I do to help you click on every cylinder? Because I believe in you. I see something in you don't see in yourself, okay? And this is confidence. Here's what I notice. This affects adults just like it does kids, right? So you can affirm and help a person build confidence. The psychologist's definition is a memory of success. What if you ain't had any success lately? I was speaking in New York City when I first started speaking, and this country boy in New York City, and I was talking about confidence on this book. I was on a book tour, and I said, confidence is the memory of success. Because that's what I heard a psychologist say. And this woman came up in New York City, and a little bit more blunt in New York City than Murfreesboro. She said, I got a bone to pick with you. I said, what is it? She said, your definition of confidence sucks. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you told me that confidence is the memory of success. She said, Coach, I ain't had any success in the last 3 or 4 months. Where do I get confidence from? She was right. If you've not had any success, you don't have any confidence. You follow me here? So I began reworking my definitions of this. So I install this by affirming and validating, seeing potential, but also, this is a big one, I talk about vision. Here's where we're going. Everybody wants to be on a bus that's going somewhere, okay? So I just don't want to get up and go work for you for years and years and years, and there's nowhere to go, right? I want to do something big. So I'm constantly talking about, here's where we're going. Here's how my plan is to get here. Here's how we're going to have greatness factories in 50 cities. Because I want you to know, man, you're on for a big ride here, right? You're on for a big ride here, okay? So let's stop here and let's just have a conversation with you. How do you think this group can do better with these 4 things? And is there an area that you think that you could be neglecting right now? And all progress starts by telling the truth, by the way. So,
I think in manufacturing, specifically, we get so ingrained in the skill and the knowledge that there is definitely, and I'm not saying it's each one of these people's fault, it's driven from the top down, that there is very little emphasis put on the spirit and heart or
that's right.
passion side of people.
That's right.
Knowing who they are and why they're there, what means the most to them, and it's totally focused on results.
That's right.
And how you and when to get them.
That's right. You know, and I'm glad you said that. I spent 4 years in the prison system rehabilitating offenders. We spend double the amount on prisons than we do on education in this country. It's a problem that has no end in sight. That's why they're building privatized prisons. We can't house everybody. Well, the first thing I noticed when they brought me in to help change that in Tennessee. So I coached all of the correctional supervisors of the offenders that went into work programs, because 98% of prisoners get out at some point. And they either change or they turn around and come back. Now, who pays for that? You do. We spend $100,000 a year on one offender in Tennessee. So I came in and I began dissecting, like, how do we rehabilitate these people, right? Well, first thing I noticed, they didn't have a coach. We just threw them in a cell and said, hey, here's the Bible, read it, get your act together, hate this so bad, don't ever want to come back. But there really was no coaching. Like, how do you change, right? So I come in and start coaching the supervisor, because the supervisor was with the offender 8 hours a day. But here's what they did. The offender, they didn't call him by name. They called him by their number. You with me? So you're not a person to me. You're just a number, and you're one of. So prisoner 1006, come on, let's go. Eat lunch, time for you to eat, time for you. And I'm like, man, they're already diminished to a very low confidence level here. If we want to get them out of prison, and I know they committed crime, okay? So I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm just saying if they're going to get out at some point, we need them to change while they're in here, okay? Well, that's the very first thing I noticed, man, is there's nothing. Not only, they just constantly beat them down and beat them down. Well, I'm with you for 8 hours a day, but I just beat you down for 8 straight hours, right? You're less than a human here. So what I noticed, though, in a lot of companies is I want you to think about that correctional officer as the supervisor and coach. And they're with that person for 8 hours a day, but there is no mechanism to transfer all this stuff. Like, you got to where you are because you have a high level of this stuff, right or wrong? You're sitting in this room because you have shown a competency in these areas. In one way, that's an affirmation of you. But what if I work for you and I never get any of that? So I poll employees all the time, and I'm like, what do you want from your manager? You know the number one thing they say? Yeah, they say more time. But I don't think they're really understanding what they're saying. I think they're saying, I want some of what they got. My manager's got some level of knowledge, some level of skill, some level of desire, some level of confidence. They're successful, and I want to know how to be more successful. And then I say, well, how much time do you get with your manager every week? And what is it? 15 minutes, an hour. And it's all competency, numbers, right? It's all production. And there's no mechanism for me to take what I got here and give it to you. Most of the companies I coach every month. So I go back to Churchill every 30 days, and I'm coaching every one of their people. I'm taking what I got, and I'm pumping it into them. Does that make sense? And then I go out to their branches all over the country that are in other states, and I listen to them talk, and they're using my language. They're doing. We do the feed the sheep. You know, that's one of the things we do every week is feed the sheep. And they're in there. I can see them in there feeding their sheep, and I'm like, man, this is working. And we're scaling it to 300 or 400 people, but they get fed every month. So I don't care how talented I am. If I don't care here, and I don't have any confidence in you and what we're doing, I will not give you my best effort. I may still show up to work because I need the paycheck only until I can find another job. But there's a book out there called I Quit, but I forgot to tell anybody. And it's people that dress up, paint up, spray up, show up. They're there, but guess where they ain't at? They're not at work, okay? So one thing I would just encourage you to start doing. Now, let's take this top. If it comes from the top, here's what happens. And I use this as an example because I'm a sports guy, a former coach. And Eric, my new director of special projects, just came from Ole Miss. He was coaching at Ole Miss when I hired him, okay? So that's where he's been the last several years. And here's the example, though, because it's relevant to you. The university wants to win games because when they win games, they make more money. They have more, right? And at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. So the president of the university goes down to the athletic director's office and says, look, I want our men's basketball team and women's team and football team to win more ball games. Because when you do, we get more money. This whole thing works better, okay? Because we got to expand and grow, build new buildings, blah, blah, blah. That athletic director walks right out of his or her office and goes down to where? The head coach. Yep. The head coach says, look, I got you on contract for 3 years. I don't care what you got to do. As long as it's legal, you better win some ball games. Well, that head coach walks right out of their office down to the assistant coaches. Says, hey, AD's on my butt. We better win some ball games, right? Or we will be out. That assistant coach goes right down to the players And what happens is we apply pressure. You everybody with me? See how that started at the top?
Don't care how you do it.
That's right. See, it started at the top with one person going, win more games. All the way down to the pressure. Well, in your world, it's somebody at the top saying, look, produce more. I don't care what you got to do. Produce more. No excuses, no whining, no complaining, right?
See, I hate that.
Keeps going down. Keeps going down. Well, what I'm saying is, you see, I want to show you that though. That's where the pressure comes from. Now, so it gets to me, let's say I'm you, and I go, okay, I agree, we can produce more. But I got a group, and I got to feed these sheep. Everybody with me? And the way we're going to produce more is I'm going to get you to buy into us more because I'm going to feed you on a consistent basis. And you're going to want to work harder for me because of the way I treat you, the way I coach you. Okay? Now, what you're going to end up having are what's called pockets of greatness and islands of mediocrity. Everybody see that? So what's going to happen, it's like you're going to have some people that are really good at feeding their sheep and getting a little production, everybody's buying in. Then you're going to have some people that are awful at it. And so these little pockets of greatness. Everybody with me? But I believe that they are the geese laying the golden eggs. So if I can feed them more and take care of them, they'll produce more for me. Now, I can lay the hammer down, but does that produce the opposite effect for me? If I got a good pulse on my team, I can tell when they're checked in and checked out in these 4 areas. Everybody with me? Okay? So here's the deal. I couldn't control the biology department at Riverdale, but I could control my department. I want to make my little department so good that people come down and say, what are you doing? And they did. I said, I'm not going to tell you how to run your biology department because that ain't my job. I'm going to run my little greatness factory. And they come down and say, what are you doing in your greatness factory? Because these kids love it here, right? Well, you actually want to build a company that's a little greatness factory. Because everybody wants to come work with you because you are very special at what it is you do. Everybody with me? So we admit we can do better here, right? Remember, your little island of excellence. Okay, you can't control everything, but you can control your little island of excellence, right? All right, what else? Because imagine having how many people you have on your team clicking on every cylinder they've got. Now, you see the beauty of this tool? When someone checks out on me, and they do from time to time, it's most likely because they got their feelings hurt, or they didn't feel appreciated, or they got their spirit crushed. Okay? That's why you're checking out. You won't tell me because you don't want to tell me. But if I can figure this out, now I know, let me spend some time with this person. Let me reaffirm and validate what they're doing, right? Because, one wrong comment, and if you're I'm a high D, type A, firstborn Leo. You know what that means? I can be very insensitive. So my natural tendency is what? Although I've been scripted in this, what's my natural tendency? Suck it up, buttercup. My natural tendency is hard-nosed, suck it up, get tougher, right? But I have learned that always don't work with everybody, right? I can mow over people, and I can keep going until I get the toughest people I can find. But what I have found through learning is that there's a better way to get there, right? There's a better way. Where else could you use this? Because it's really like a technology you're using to coach people. Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. My 4-year-old daughter can tell when I'm there and not there. I mean, when I'm with her, but not with her. She can tell. And I have a concept I'm going to write a book on next called Crumbs. And it's how to pour it all in during the day, but not serve up leftovers for the people you love the most. Because I think that's a growing problem we got in our world. Is we go real hard during the day, and then we got nothing left over at home. And that ain't fair to the people you love, right? Okay? My wife told me that I was not ready to write that book yet. She said, you can't write it till you actually practice it, okay? She's right, though, right? I said, I'm going to practice it, and then I'm going to write it. Okay? Okay, what else? Okay, so they're the geese laying the golden eggs. Our goal is not to squeeze the geese laying the golden eggs, it's to try to get them to a higher capacity. And the way we get them to a higher capacity. So how many of you, how much time does your people get with you right now? And is it enough?
No.
Okay. So think about a distribution. Think about if I had an IV and I took 25 years of coaching out of me and I just put it in you. Well, I can't do it in a day. Like Eric just started working with me. He and I have been friends for years. But my ultimate goal is to take what's been put in me and give it to him. Right? and add his skill set to the equation. Okay? But with no mechanism to do that, what if he never gets to see me? I got a sales guy, he says, man, I need some of your time, coach. You're on the road, I never get to see you, right? We can't strengthen our relationship if I never get any time with you. Follow me? So I said, let's have dinner tomorrow night. Because here's what I know. If I feed into him, he'll sell a whole lot more. He'll sell a whole lot more, especially if we get on the same page with each other, right? Because if he believes in me, he'll sell me. Okay? All right. Any other questions about this tool? It's called the whole person theory. Very few managers are using this. So I want you to think about, and I'll use Churchill as an example, because this is real interesting. When I started working with people in the mortgage business, during the down times or down cycles is when people thought they needed coaching. So now, hey, nobody's buying any houses. We need some coaching. That's a wrong model. Now people are buying houses. All these mortgage companies are like, we don't need any coaching. We don't need any coaching. We don't need any coaching. But not Churchill. Churchill said, we're going to coach our people every month because we believe in culture. And we don't care if the market's high or low. We're going to make our people better. You follow me here? So the coaching has got to be ongoing, systematic. Okay? It can't be random and sporadic. Like you can't go back next week and get all jacked up and say, hey man, I saw Coach Burt. He's a little bald-headed pit bull, and I'm ready to coach somebody. And you go back 1 week and coach them. Think of this. Coaching is engaging you in a set of systematic behaviors that allows you to do something tomorrow you can't do today. It's basically taking what you've got and putting it into them. So you may do a 6-week series on something, right? When I work with Demas's restaurants, if you ever eat at Demas's, a great restaurant here in Murfreesboro, Peter Demos had one rule. At every meeting, you only cover one thing. So one meeting would be, how do we take customer complaints and turn them into positives? That's all he talked about. He didn't come in there and have 7 things on the meeting agenda. They'd take one meeting, one concept for 1 hour, and then he'd move on to the next one. And you had to show a demonstrated capacity in that one thing before he moved on. So if we didn't get it this week, we come back and do it again. Well, we had 3 complaints at the store, and they have 1,000 people in a weekend, and they'd have 3 complaints. 3 steaks that weren't cooked right. He'd come back and do it again. Okay, we had 3 complaints this weekend, 3 out of 1,000. Ain't bad. Let's get better at this, right? He'd stay on that one time. Then he moved to another one. So I don't want you to think you take everything you've ever learned and give it to him in a day. I want you to think, this week I'm going to coach you. There's 1 to many, and then there's 1 to 1. So I coach you like this, and I say, Kim, come see me. There's a couple things I want to show you. Then I'd have a 1-to-1 relationship with you, okay? What am I giving you? What am I taking out of me and giving to you? Yeah, knowledge, skill, desire, confidence. Everybody see that? That's what I'm giving you, okay? Now, so I'm going to show you what's called a commitment continuum. And a concept called core values versus share values, because this is very critical to being a great leader. You have a set of core values. I don't want you to think of core values as the way you typically think of it, like trust, integrity, honesty. These are core values, but I'm going to call these the cost of doing business. If you don't have these, you're never going to be successful. Everybody follow me? So let's just park those for just a second and say that's the cost of doing business. Like I'm not going to hire people I think are unethical. And if you're unethical, I'm just going to fire you. You with me? So let's say that's the cost of entry. But I want to take it a little bit deeper. Because every problem you have as a manager is going to come down to this one piece. I, being you, have a set of things I believe at my core. These things are scripted in me from an early age through environmental scripting, psychological scripting, right? I mean, it is like, this is who I am. This is what I believe. You have a set of core values too. When these 2 things do not line up is where we have friction. Everybody follow me? So when you don't share core values, right here in the middle, it's only a matter of time before you and I are going to have friction with each other. For example, I believe in coming early and staying late and seeing a job through to its conclusion. I was a coach. Some of my days started at 6:30 and ended at midnight. You with me? I did not recognize time. Okay, now I was not married, didn't have a child during that period of life, but I would literally come in at 6:30 and go to midnight. That's just the way we worked. So when I first left coaching and went into corporate America, a big bank hired me. I worked these people to death. They brought me in to drive a big retail initiative, and man, I would just push them and push them and push them. And the COO called me one night. He said, "Man, these people don't work. They can't work like that. Like you can't bring them in at 6:30 in the morning and work them till midnight." You know what I mean? You know what I asked him? Do you want to hit the goal or not? That was my response. I'm like, you hired me? You paying me a lot of money? Do you want me to do this or not? He's like, I do, but we can't work them like this here. Well, that's the only way I knew how to work, right? I'm like, look, you hired me to drive an objective, and I ain't stopping until I hit it. That's the way I was raised. I was raised by a single mom who had me when she was 16 years old. I watched her scratch and claw for everything she ever had. You follow me? That's where I'm scrappy. So I bring that with me. So let's say I believe in coming early and staying late, and I don't recognize time. I do now more that I have a wife and daughter. But let's say that that's still my belief system. Let's say I hire you, and you believe in coming in late and leaving early. Right? How long is it before you and I have a problem with each other? Okay? Let's say that I believe sales is the number one thing of any company because we have to sell something to have revenue because we can't expand without sales. Right? And you don't value sales. How long before you mean you have a problem? Let's say that I believe the customer pays everybody paycheck. It ain't me or Micheal Burt Enterprises. It's the customers we serve that actually pay our salaries. So let's hold them in very high esteem, and you see the customer as a nuisance. You see where we get off bounds here? So I want you to never forget something. People do business with other people that believe the same things they do. And when you're building a team, you want to build a team of people who believe the same things. And if you got people on your team right now that don't believe the same things you do, when it comes to your core values, it's going to be very rocky between you and them. Everybody follow me here. Now, I tell people, we ain't got to line up on politics, we ain't got to line up on religion, we ain't got to line up on a lot of things. But there's some things we got to line up on. Okay? Do you have anybody on your team right now that doesn't believe the same things you do? Is that person create friction for you? Yes. Do you understand why now, right? If you believe in having some fun and everybody's stiff every day, right? Right? Okay? Then at some point there's going to be some problem here. So let me show you how this plays out on a team so you know. I want you to draw a line from low to high. And we're going to look at commitment. Because now that you understand the whole person theory, do you understand that I can show up at work and be here but not be committed to you? Yes. Right? You can be in a relationship with anybody else and still not be committed. Right? You can be there but not be there. Now that you understand the whole person theory, you understand that. They can be there physically but not be there mentally or emotionally. Okay? So when it comes to commitment, down here at the lowest level of commitment, I rebel or quit. So I rebel against you or I quit on you. But I could still show up at work and have quit on you. Right? So this is a level of commitment. It's just the lowest level there is. Okay? Second level of commitment is called malicious obedience. You're laughing. What is that? Say it.
I do it when I have to.
That's right. And I might even undercut you while I'm doing it.
I'm going to watch you burn. I'll give you exactly what you want.
Okay? So I do it, but I'm actually undermining you while I'm doing it. So I say one thing to your face and another thing behind your back. And I create a lot of problems for you. Okay? I just want you to think about winning at the highest levels, because you're never going to see a team win like this. Where I see the most commitment or most obvious commitment levels in companies or any team really is the third level, which is called willing compliance. This is, I do it, because I'm getting paid to do it. Don't ask me to do anything else. Don't ask me to put any extra effort into it. Let's just make it through the day. Okay, here's what some model is. Let's make it through the day without anybody hurting themselves or hurting each other. Right? That's actually how a lot of supervisors think about their work. Let me show up and make sure we make it through the day without hurting yourself or hurting each other. Okay? Now, tell me why you would have those 3 levels of commitment between anybody. And tie it back to the core value conversation.
Passion, no passion.
When you and I don't share beliefs, I give you very low levels of commitment. When you and I don't line up on what we believe. Okay? So one of the first things I share with my team is what I believe. You've heard me say it today. I believe in revenue, sales. I believe in value of a customer. You see what I'm saying? Well, if my people don't believe that, then we're going to have a problem with each other. Okay? So what I try to do is align myself with other people that believe the same things I do. Okay? And that kind of solves that problem. So when you're hiring people, this is very critical. 1, I want to attract dynamic people, not static. And number 2, I want to attract people who believe the same things I do. I'm not saying I'm right in my beliefs. You and I can disagree on what we believe, right? But if you're coming to work on my team, and I tell people I sign the checks on the front, and you sign yours on the back. So we you know what I'm saying? So we do need to believe the same things, okay? Now, you don't have to agree with me, but you also don't have to work with me either, because we're doing something big, okay? Now, notice that when we do share core values and core beliefs, what happens? So once you put the 4th level, and let's just call this one creative excitement. Creative excitement is, man, I'm so excited to be a part of this team. I'm bringing ideas to the table on how we can get better. Right? I'm thinking even at home how we can get better. I'm creative about it. I'm like got good energy, right? Because see how it's going up? Now my commitment's going up. Now look at the highest level here. This is called heartfelt commitment. What you're seeing with the Predators, right? You can really see this playing out in sports teams. They did a study a few years ago, and the NBA teams that touch each other the most have the highest percentage of wins. High fives, pat on the backs. Does that make sense? The teams that touch each other the least had the worst percentages of wins, because there's energy, connection. So when you watch a great sports team play, they're high-fiving, the crowd's going wild, what you're seeing is this manifests itself, right? It's at the very highest levels, okay? When you're seeing teams with bad body language, walk around like this, don't talk to each other, right? Don't look at their coach when they come off the floor. What you're seeing is a real negative disposition and almost an adversarial relationship between the coaches and the players and each other. And so what you're actually witnessing is this down here. And it's only a matter of time before somebody's out the door. You follow me? Because this produces no wins. So a couple of years ago, most of you guys are in Middle Tennessee, right? I went in and spoke to, where are you from?
Michigan.
Oh, nice. Most of you guys are, I went in and worked with the local team here, Middle Tennessee State University, Kermit Davis. And he was only winning 18 games a year. And his track record was 18 wins. Then he'd get to the end and his players would quit on him. And it was 18 wins, 18 wins, 18 wins, 18 wins, 18 wins. And I showed him this. And I said, your team is right here. They're not buying into you, and at some point you don't buy into them. So when it hurts the most, they quit on you. Because I go so far, and then I'm like, I'm out, man. I ain't taking. I'd just soon the season be over than to take any more of this. Right? Well, somewhere along the way, he shifted. He shifted something about the way he coached those players. So the last couple of years, he's went to the, what's he gone to eat? Yeah, I mean, he's sweet, yeah. I mean, this is in Murfreesboro, and he's going to the round of 32, sweet, right? Still recruiting players, something clicked. And I think what clicked is I got to change as the coach. And I got to treat these players different. Because if not, I'm only going to get to 18 wins, and eventually they're going to fire me for getting 18 wins. This is no different than your production at work, right? I'm only getting to a certain amount of production over and over and over, and I can't get to the next level. Now, I could go out and get better players, which is what sports teams do, or I could change my leadership style and try to connect better with my people. So the reason I show you this is because if you have a bunch of people on your team who don't believe the same things you do, now what do? Let's say I go through this exercise and you get it today. You're like, okay, now I see where our problem is. What do I do now? Some people are going to say, go back and fire everybody. And some people do that, don't they? Some people just go through and filter it out and bring a whole new team in. Right? I've worked with people that I've gone into companies and said, and I'm like, why am I here? You know, what do you want me to do? Say again?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
So you're saying is how do I give?
Well, let's say you recognize this today, because what I'm doing is just giving you tools to be a better coach and leader, right? And how do you build great teams? Well, great teams believe the same things. They have high levels of energy. They have heartfelt commitment. And we'll get in the second session. I'm going to show you dysfunction of teams. Okay? Because once we get to very high levels here, this is winning, baby. This is production. You're producing very. So let's say you figure out, hey, I got some people on my team, we don't believe the same things. What's my options as a coach and manager? What could I do?
I think in humility, you have to approach them and spill the beans and just be transparent, truthful. But if you don't do it in humility, they're going to take it as another
Sorry.
mandate.
Could it be true that if you study systems thinking, could it be true that sometimes the leader creates the most dysfunction? Yes or no? See, many years ago I studied fifth discipline, systems thinking. That was part of my advanced levels of college. And I couldn't understand it at first. I was like, man, I can't get my mind around, right? Can't get my mind around this. And then I began to understand that any leader has the most influence over any system. And if the leader creates dysfunction, the leader can actually create the most dysfunction within the system. So sometimes it's okay for you to go, man, this one's on me. I did a poor job of leading, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get this back together. Because I only got two options here. I can try to convince you to believe the same things I do. I can get rid of you and go get people who believe the same things I do. Or I can say, you know what, it's okay we don't agree on this, but there's things we got to agree on here for us to be great. And I sometimes say, it looks like you and I are out of alignment on this. Doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong sometimes. We're just not on the same page about this, okay? But this is where commitment comes from. Now, tie that into the whole person. Now you know why people check out with you in the heart and the spirit, because they don't believe what you believe. So what do people with broken hearts do? They maliciously obey and they rebel and quit. See how those things tie to each other? You want to say something? Okay. All right, what questions do we have? Because we're about to take a break.
I think the key, though, it started with that conversation.
Yeah.
It started with that connection,
Right.
that conversation about that.
Well,
Brutal facts, right?
confront the brutal facts. You know, and here's the deal. When the social scientists wrote the book Critical Conversations, they didn't go out to write a book about critical conversations. They went out to find out what made the best leaders the best leaders. And what they found out is the best leaders were all able to have critical conversations. Everybody with me here? And they were able to have crucial confrontations. And they was able to confront the brutal facts. And they were able to do it in a way, you know, I think they were able to do it in a way that got agreement and accord. Not, I did it and it ruined the relationship between you and I. Okay? So if you ever work with big time people, they're really good at having these hard conversations, but not in a way that makes you feel pitiful, in a way that makes you go, you know what? I need to get on board here. You know, this is good.
You know, some people mock it, but there's going to come a time if you're a leader worth your salt, some of those are going to leave you with tears in your eyes.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to get that real with people.
Absolutely.
To understand it.
Absolutely. Well, when we come back from the break, I'm going to show you we'll go through some of the common dysfunctions of teams. And the reason this is critical is because I think what a good coach does is they got a huge arsenal of tools in their toolbox. When I go in and coach people, I got all these tools. And I'm working through these tools. You see what I'm saying? And what I'm doing is pulling levers. And as a coach, when I went into a game, a lot of times the plays were scripted. That means I already predetermined what I was going to run. And then we charted what worked and what didn't work. And then we only stay with things that worked. Okay? But sometimes what I was running wasn't working. And you know what I had to do then? Keep pulling those levers. And so as a coach now, I go in and I try something. Some of it works and some of it don't. And then I just go back to my tool shed and I go, okay, let me pull this out. and I keep going until I find something that'll work. Because ultimately, I'm hired to get results. And in my world, that's typically higher sales, better teams. It all comes out in money. You with me? The companies that hire me don't make more money, they don't bring me back. Okay? So I got to get you function at a very high level so your production goes up. You can draw a direct correlation back to who's coaching you and say, hey, here's a missing ingredient we had. Okay? All right, let's take a short break. Then we'll come back. We're going to get into some dysfunction. If you need you to rest... Jack, I'm going to be pushing when I get done here to do the next thing. So if you could set the studio up with that, if you don't mind for me, please. Let's talk about takeaways. There's 2 books I wrote on this. This one I wrote about how to build winning cultures. I wrote this with the guy who won 10 championships. Okay, so we basically old school, new school. He's an old school guy and I'm a new school guy. And it's our philosophy about how to, what I call inner engineering people to win. Whole person theory, how we build cultures, how he did it his way, how I did it my way, okay? The other one is the new book I have out called Everybody Needs a Coach in Life. And this was a bestseller for me. This is my 12th book. And a lot of stuff I'm talking about is in this book. Okay, and it's kind of my philosophy about my life's message, which is every person in the world needs a good coach, right? Because a good coach can change your life. So we have both of those if you decide you want to get those today. What's your takeaways? And I don't make a lot of money on books, so don't think I'm trying to sell you anything, trust me. I got to sell 10 million to make $5. Okay? It's basically just me sharing my message with the world. It's almost a charity project, you know?
My first takeaway is evaluating my team for the 4 competencies, right? The skill, the knowledge, the passion, the confidence.
Nice. And just think of it this way. I say missing structures. The reason I use that word, it's a whole lot less offensive than you got 4 problems. So I say we all have missing structures. If I could help you with this missing structure, would it be valuable, right? And so that whole person theory just opened my eyes to, man, we all have missing structure in one of these 4 areas. So how do we go to work in coaching you in those areas of missing structure? A good coach finds and feels missing structures, right? Your company may have hired you because they had a missing structure. And you're there for a reason. And if you kind of build your little brand and your name for being able to do certain things, right? And I'm here to fill this missing structure. Money changes hands when problems are solved. Okay? The bigger the problem, the more money people pay to solve it. So really, good coaches are hired to, right, come in and solve problems. Okay? So that was a big takeaway for you. What else?
One thing I thought was very interesting was, our organization has a list of core values.
Yep.
Say, we talked about that.
Yep.
But when you get right down to the team level, then do we have the core values that match up across the team? And how do we align those to get the best output?
That's right. Because within your unit, right, the team takes on the personality of the leader. That's why you see tough teams. Typically the leader's tough, gritty, right, fun, dynamic. And so your team has its own set of core. And when I explain core values that way, it helps people to understand them a little bit different. You know, I'm not going to keep you on my team if you're not ethical and I can't trust you, right? But let me take it a step further. There's certain things Coach Burt believes. If you don't believe these things, then we may have issues with each other at some point in the future. Okay? And just remember the thing. People do business with other people that believe the same things they do.
It's almost as one is an expectation, the other is an attitude.
Yeah, yeah. And I tell people, either you don't want to do what I'm asking you to do or you can't.
Yeah.
One is an attitude problem, one's a skill problem. Now, I can fix the skill. Because a lot of people, I get asked this question by a lot of managers, how do you take your passion and embed it into your employees? Well, I just try to hire employees that share my passion. I don't try to get, now, I can rub off on them. And I can kind of instill my confidence into them. And they can see how hard I work at it, right? I remember going to a concert in Las Vegas once of an entertainer. And it always looks easy when you go watch entertainers perform. You know, it's like, oh, piece of cake. Get up there and sing for a couple hours. Until you sit right down close to the stage. And you see how hard they work for those 2 or 3 hours. You know, sweat pouring off of them, trying to win people over, exchange of energy. I walked out of there having such a deeper appreciation for them. Because I used to sit up here and watch it, and I was just like a bystander just watching it. It's like, man, that must be easy down there what they're doing. Until you see it up close. Well, when you work up close with a really great coach and leader, first one you see is how hard they work at being great. They're constantly reading, studying, dissecting. They're never static. You follow me? And today I get to work with a lot of great leaders. So I watch how this person works and that person works. And they're always refining, right? They really have changed their job title from leader, manager, supervisor to a master of human potential. They really want to be great at what they do. Okay, and the better I can get you to perform, everybody wins here, right? What's contradicting that is this free agent nation we're living in. What's contradicting this teaming concept is how much we're taught to be selfish and look out for number one. So you got these two opposing worldviews colliding with each other, right? No different than when I was coaching kids and mom and dad would tell them, hey, you shoot every time you touch it. Don't pass it to somebody else. Well, that's counterintuitive to us winning, especially when your shooting percentage is 8%.
Even in terms of the millennials,
Yes.
I believe that in this era we live in, people are no longer loyal to a company.
Yep.
But they would be loyal to a leader.
That's right. That's right. Well, you hear the saying people don't leave their jobs, they leave their bosses. And I've had situations where I would have made a lot more money to go somewhere else, but I stayed because of the relationship with the leader. I mean, I've done that personally. And there's something between me and that leader that I trust. There's high chemistry. And even though I got offered more money to go to other places, I said, man, I ain't leaving this guy. This is just too good a relationship. And I've had people tell me, we can't pay you more money, although we think you're worth it. And if it's just about the money, you need to go. But if it's about me and you doing something big together, we want you to stay. I mean, that's one of the strongest conversations you can say to another person. And I'm like, man, that's good. If it's about me and you doing something big together, then we want you here. If it's just about the money, you can go somewhere else and make more money.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
It's that easy.
That's right.
You can situationally understand how to prick their hearts.
Yeah.
Right? Then typically the rest of it is a little easier. I
That's right.
think.
That's right. So if we can get our own employees to a much better state in their life,
Right.
then we can get our external customers to a much better place. See, a lot of times we have this mixed up. It's most of the great companies try to get their own employees to a much better state. And they know those employees will get the customers to a better state. You follow me? But a lot of people bypass that. So that's why I'm big on feed the sheep. Once we get them operating at a high level, they will give us great customer service, okay? All right, I'm going to finish today with, we're just going to look at some of the common dysfunctions of teams. And we'll just pull this out of Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of Teams, because a lot of people have read the book. You know, read the book, 5 Dysfunctions? But they don't fully, a lot of people read the books, but they never synthesize the information, which means break it down and learn how to apply it, right? So a lot of people have book clubs, and everybody reads the book. But it's very critical that you understand this. Every team in America is dysfunctional because we are imperfect people living in an imperfect world. So we bring dysfunction to the equation, whether we know it or not. You follow me? And people ask me my views on marriage all the time. Two wholes, two halves don't make a whole. I believe two wholes, two well-adjusted people that are whole that come together make a whole. Everybody follow me here? So what happens when we get in teams is we bring in all this dysfunction. And we compound it and we multiply it. And we say, well, you guys, everybody play nice with each other. Okay? And we don't really understand team dynamics. Somebody has to harness the energy of all this stuff going on. Okay? So when you look at dysfunction, I want you to think of it like this. He talks about it in 5 levels. It's not just important that you know it. It's important how do you overcome it. The first level is absence of trust. And he puts it at the bottom. I like to say, this is where the emotional bank account comes in. And the emotional bank account, the currency is not money, it's trust. Well, when you hear that word, one definition of trust is the best predictor of future behavior is past relevant behavior. So I know whether I can trust you or not based on our past together. But this is not how Lencioni talks about trust in this book. He talks about trust as in vulnerability. When there's deep trust between two people, we're vulnerable to each other. You know what I'm weak at, and you don't judge me for that weakness. Right? I know what you're weak at, and I don't judge you. I help you, I compliment you, and you compliment me. That's how he talks about it. Okay, I think about some of my best friends. I got 2 or 3 really, really good friends, and we can be completely honest with each other with no judgment. We can have hard conversations with each other. They can call me on things. I can call them on things, right? Although it may sting a little bit, you know what I know? They're doing it for my best interest. You follow me? That's vulnerability. What I find in most work environments is incredibly artificial. So when I do, I can't really get you to the next level because we can't get truthful with each other. You follow me? So I kind of sugarcoat everything. So he talks about it as great teams become vulnerable to each other. You know my weakness. If you worked around me every day, you know I got weakness, but you don't judge me because of that. Right? Like if you read my books and watch my shows and watch my podcasts, you might say, Coach Burt's the most positive, motivational person in the world. Well, you travel with me every day. Right? And you're going to see me not be positive every second of every day. You follow me here? You're going to see the vulnerable side of me. You're going to see what days I don't want to be, I don't want to motivate anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. But I still got to show up and deliver. Well, you could judge me because of that. You could say I'm a hypocrite. Or you could just say, we're all imperfect people, man. A guy has bad days like everybody else does. You follow me here? So I'm trying to build a team right now with very experienced people. But I'm trying to get them all to where there's very high levels of trust. There's no suspicion between each other. There's no undermining or backstabbing. There's no, well, this one comes to me about that one. They are really, really trust each other. I don't care if they make mistakes. Make them big. My point is just do something. Take action. You follow me here?
Something better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, just take initiative. So I'm building a new team. Like all these people you see around me are all new. And I've cycled through people that were not good. You know, they weren't bad people. They just didn't want to play at the level I want to play at. It's okay. So absence of trust means I go to work on the emotional bank account, but more than anything, it means I get out of the judgment business of my teammates and get into how can I complement. You got weakness and I got weakness. How do we complement each other? Then it moves up to fear of conflict. Fear of conflict is where we have issues or we give each other crumbs. Crumbs mean I don't give you my best and you don't give me your best, but we can't call each other on it because we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. Why would we have that one? Why would we have fear of conflict?
Maybe the positions of authority.
Yep, could be retribution. Could be every time I say something to you, you blow up and you're a drama king or drama queen. So what I do is I don't want to come to you because, you know, you take everything's big and dramatic.
Some of it's cultural.
It is, yeah. Yeah. We don't want, right? Well, here's what they find out about big-time leaders. That's why they wrote the book Critical Conversations, was that they're not afraid of this. If you study Bezos at Amazon, Jobs, CEO of Uber, all these big-time people, they are not scared of all conflict. They actually encourage it because they believe the best ideas happen when we argue and debate about them. You follow me here? Constructively. So I want you to think of this as, if you're ever going to be a big-time person, coaches are really good at this. Coaches are not afraid to address unmet expectation because their livelihood is tied to winning games. So when somebody's not performing, they attack it. Well, in the business world, when I started coaching the businesses, I was like, why do we let people just do all this stuff for so long until their performance review? It's like we let them suck for a year, and then we tell them at their performance review that they suck. Like a coach would never do that. When they don't like something, they attack it. And then it becomes, hey, we coach around here. This is a culture of getting better, of improvement. Okay? That means I'm going to have to coach you, which may mean I got to be constructively critical of you, right? My job is to get you to the highest level. So fear of conflict has to do with our ability to have critical conversations. And I would tell you, it's going to be hard for you to be a good manager if you're afraid of conflict. Because part of your job is solve problems and make decisions, right? Third level of dysfunction is avoidance of accountability. Avoid accountability. This is one of the hottest buzzwords in coaching today. Do you know how many people call me and say, what's the biggest thing you want me to do? Accountability, accountability, accountability. So I ask this, what are we holding them accountable to?
Say for what?
It's hard for me to hold you accountable to an intangible. Attitude, do you smile, did you show up, dressed up, you know what I mean? I hold people accountable to results and a process. This depersonalizes it. So it's not that I don't like you. I'm holding you accountable. We have a sales system we use, right? There's expectations on your outputs. That's part of your job responsibilities. I'm going to hold you accountable to that system. I'm going to show you how to win, and I expect you to work the system. And if you're not winning and you're not working the system, now we're going to have a problem with each other. Okay? So accountability is this. The reason we need it, and I tell people this. Number one, all big-time producers are not afraid of accountability. Some of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life, I made in isolation of other people. You with me? I want accountability. I need accountability. We all do, to some extent. You follow me? So I tell people, don't be afraid of it. Big-time people want it. That's why every big-time person has a coach. Okay? Steve Jobs took a walk with his coach every Sunday. So why do we need it? We start with good intention. We fall off the wagon. We experience guilt. The guilt is tied to grief. Grief is we're grieving our lost potential. Okay? So I make a commitment to my trainer. You know, I flew in last night about 10, 11 o'clock from Minnesota. And I went through St. Louis, and I delayed flights. But I knew if I didn't commit to my trainer, I wouldn't show up to the gym this morning. So I texted when I was in St. Louis, I'll be there. Right? Because I knew I was going to get in late. My first thing was going to be to opt out. Sleep in. You follow me? When I made that commitment to him, he's going to be there, waiting on me. So I just went ahead and committed, even though I didn't want to, right? Well, without accountability, what happens? Left to my own devices, I just contract and retreat. Okay? Well, avoidance of accountability is we don't have any accountability in place, so kind of things are just running wild and rampant. Follow me? Now, next one is lack of commitment. Or uneven levels of commitment would be another way of saying it. Why does this create dysfunction?
I'm doing more than you are.
There you go. Some people are committed and some people are not. And when you're halfway in, I said this once, I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I said, name one thing in your life that you can be halfway in and halfway out of and still win. One guy out there in Knoxville said, three-legged race. I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, that's a rhetorical question. But what I find is so there's two ways that people see their work. One group of people see their work as an occupation. It occupies their time in which they receive a paycheck for. It's just a job. Another group of people see their work as the distribution channel for their talent. It's their vocation. You see how those two could have problems with each other? Like, I think my work is my mission. This is why I'm on planet Earth. They just happen to pay me for it, right? Well, if you just show up and say, hey, I got 8 to 4, 45-minute lunch. You with me? You and I, we got uneven levels of commitment. What if I go hire a bunch of people like me that are kind of rabid about their work, they enjoy it, right? And then we hire somebody that's not committed. They will eat that person alive. They will eat that person alive, okay? So what happens is this builds resentment. You follow me? And now I'm not saying you can't be great at an occupation. I know lots of people that are very good at their jobs and that's not their love, right? I'm not saying it has to be your vocation to be good, because I know people that are really good, that are good role players, that's it. But when you have this, what happens, especially on your team, is it builds resentment. This one's working 18 hours, this one's working 8 hours. This one mad about this one thinks this one's not committed. Okay? So it breeds all kinds of dysfunction, okay? Now, we get up to the last dysfunction that he talks about. It's called status and ego. And this one actually affects the most talented people. This is when one person on the team, typically very good at what they do, begins to believe they are bigger than the team. It is typically tenured people who have been there for a long time who have a very special skill set. Right? And they start saying what? And they start saying what? Hey, what are you going to do? Fire me?
Can't make it around me.
Bobby Knight said that at Indiana. And they fired him. And they went to a national championship within a couple years after firing him. See, in a world with 7 billion people on it, we can find somebody who can do it like you. Does that make sense? It's a very big ego thing to believe that you're irreplaceable. They may not do it exactly like you do it, but there's somebody out there who's pretty good. So I actually saw this in coaching when I coached. And sometimes I fell into this trap. We had a football coach that was really, really good. And he was so good. He's probably the best coach in Tennessee. And he won championships. And he began to just do whatever he wanted to. Didn't come to any meetings. Didn't interact with the faculty. They gave him a car. You know what I'm saying? Here's what I noticed it did. Half the people loved him, half of them hated him. And when I won a championship, I began to think, well, what are they going to do? Fire me? I'm the only guy that's ever won a championship here. It's easy to lull into that, isn't it? Because you hear a lot of how good you are, and it's easy to fall into that. But it's a mistake. You know why? It polarizes people. And people begin to really, really fight against you. So what I tell people is don't get such a big ego, right? We all need each other here. There's a symbiotic relationship here. So if you were to say, we experience some of these dysfunction, which one would you say that you experience or you think you experience?
I think absence of trust.
Yeah.
And then I think in some locations we have the status and ego issues.
Yep.
I have a new team, I would say all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can I
So,
ask one question?
sure.
In that whole pyramid, all of that is relative to whatever vision is cast.
Yeah.
And I think even like in the plant, that I'm at,
Mhm.
which has been chaotic, there's been just really no clear direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you wind up with different scales of every one of those.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
I think, was it Nehemiah who said without
That's right.
a vision the people perish.
That's right. That's right.
And that's really, has to be relevant to have those
It is.
in order.
It is. And when people go unrestrained, there's a problem. So the lack of restraint means I don't have a system and a strategy, right? And I totally agree with you. This is going to be everywhere. So a lot of times a good leader is going to instill some order. Okay? But what I always did, which I think is good for you, is when I told you earlier that you needed a technical and a humanistic side to your meetings, when you're covering your meetings with your people and you're infusing what you got into me, you can teach these things. I wouldn't teach the 5 dysfunctions in one helping. But you may say, hey, every team's dysfunctional. Over the next 6 weeks, I'm going to unpack one of those dysfunction, right? So I always taught my teams the 5 dysfunctions of teams. And the reason is when you can recognize it, you can mitigate it. And I would say this to my players. If you think at any time we are practicing any of these dysfunctions and it will cost us from achieving our objective of winning a championship, I want you to throw the red flag. That's right. And oddly enough, 14 to 18-year-olds would do this. They'd say, Coach, I want to throw the red flag. Why? Well, we got fear of conflict between these two people. So what I really want is them policing each other, not all the discipline coming from me. And so I would teach them all these strategies, right? And I would say every week I'm going to teach you a new dysfunction. And then once I get them all, I'm going to show. So I would teach the whole, then I break it down into parts. And so 7 minutes of my meeting, I would say, let's talk about absence of trust. What's trust mean to you? How do we break it down? How do we build it? What is the emotional bank account? And I would talk about this as part of my meetings, and I'd move over to competency. For you, it'd be production, numbers, right? So without both of these parts, I'm not touching all parts of your nature. I'm only touching the body. So we taught players the 7 habits of highly effective people, the principles of good to great, the 5 dysfunctions of teams, the 5, right? These are things we taught our players. Now, how does that build a better team? If your team is more connected, smarter, higher chemistry, trust each other better, you're going to produce more. Okay? You're just going to produce more. So some of these people just show up to work. You can't assume they go home and read self-help books. And they watch seminars on YouTube. And they follow Coach Burt on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? You got to assume most people do not get all this stuff we've been talking about at home. And they didn't get it in their schooling. So if they don't get it from you and they don't get it at work, where do they get it? You follow me here? So that what I find is the companies that I'm coaching is a part of working there. We're coaching operations teams, the sales teams, the management teams, and every month I'm coaching these people. And then their managers coming right behind me and reinforcing these things in their meetings every week. And what we're doing is we're getting their people more connected, smarter, higher chemistry, better trust, and that should equal more production if they got the right people. Everybody follow me here? Okay?
The best teams ought to be able to, in a staff meeting or whatever, be able to call that out, right? When there's comments made. I mean,
Yeah.
that's some of my experience in the strong team that I was a part of is, oh, I'm hearing a fear of conflict here. Let's go ahead and
That's right.
have it out.
Just still it.
What's the issue?
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
Put the gloves on. Let's go ahead and talk it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
But you got to be able to have those conversations in a healthy.
That's right.
Healthy team will do that.
That's right.
And won't just sit on it. Right.
And you don't make it personal.
Exactly. It's
You know, I always attack the gap. I don't attack the person.
Attack the what, not the who, right?
I look at here's what we want you to do. Here's where you're performing at. How do we get you there?
Yep.
It ain't about you personally. So I'm not attacking you. You're not lazy, no good. You see what I'm saying? Your skill set is not where we need it to be. How do we get you there? Okay? So what I've tried to give you today is just some tools. So what tools did I give you? Let's rewind. Number one tool I gave you was a whole person theory, right?
Right.
Is that tool served me better than anything I've ever used, okay? Because now I understand when someone checks out on me. Same in your personal life. If my wife has a broken heart, she's going to disengage from me. My daughter has a broken heart, she's going to disengage from me. You follow me? So it's really a universal tool. I also talked about the 3 states you could be in: dynamic, static, entropic, and what you're trying to do. Then I showed you how you can be in rejuvenated, mechanical burnout, which is very critical. If you're burned out, you ain't got any mojo to give somebody else. And I really need some mojo from you. Okay? Then we moved into what's called core values and shared values. And I showed you, try to line up your team with other people who believe the same things you do. You'll do big things together. And then how much commitment a person would give you. Everybody with me? And then I finished with overview of the 5 dysfunctions. We could tackle that for a whole day. We could tackle any of that stuff for a whole day, to be honest with you. So just think about this. If you're coaching, you could take all this stuff and just unpack it. This week I'm going to talk about this. This week I'm going to talk about this. Go back to those offenders that I was coaching. We coached them for 32 straight weeks through curriculum, through one of my books called This Ain't No Practice Life. And every week they got a lesson. So if they were in the prison system, they watch a video with me. Then they would do a little lesson with their supervisor. Then the supervisor would talk to every one of them one-to-one. Then next week, they'd do another lesson. They did it for 32 weeks. Then it'd start over, right? And they would get that throughout the year. And I would go into prisons. I'd go into sales, and they would have quotes from my books up there. Never let your past hold your future hostage. Always make your future bigger than your past. Live out of your imagination instead of your memory. You know what I mean? It was sticking. And they would come say, when I get out of here, Coach Burt, I'm gonna go. I've already mapped it out what I'm gonna do. So it was working, what we were trying to do, right? And so for you, it's not gonna happen in one session. I want you to think of this as an ongoing fluid session between you and your team, week after week after week, and it may be a while before, okay? But the concept of the sower and the reaper enjoying the harvest together is one I love. If I'm sowing into you, eventually you and I enjoy the harvest together. It's not a one-sided relationship. We're both in this together, okay? Guys, I thank you for coming to the Greatness Factory. I hear you're going to feed the body here pretty soon.
Doing honky-tonkin' a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah.
Don't make me come down to Nashville and coach you down on Broadway, because I will. Listen, I want to thank you for coming today. Hope you got some good value out of this. I know there's a lot of potential here. I can tell you're very interested in your potential. And that means a lot. I've coached groups that are not interested in their potential. And trust me, I can tell. So take it with you. Hope to see you on the journey somewhere down the road. I talked to Kim, maybe we can do this more at some point. I'd love to come back and do it some more with you and really get you there. Because there's nothing I love more than working with great teams. And there's more bad teams than good ones. You feel me? So there's a lot of room for good coaching out there, okay? All right, God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.